Hey, this is Notser, and today we're going to be talking some ship news. Wargaming gave a butt ton of information. We've got the Italian arc, 8.8's release date. We've got changes to test ships, Halloween skins previewed, submarine Q&A with some cool gameplay. It's sort of more refined since we've seen it at Gamescom, which was last month. And then also some preview test ships we now got the stat sheet for, so we can discuss that in more detail and enjoy it. But first, let's talk about that Italian arc, because I think everyone is feeling a little Italian. We're all super excited. This is probably the most recognizable Navy that is not in the game, and finally we're getting it. 8.9 will be the Italian Phase 1 Early Access. Early Access will be for Tiers 5, 6, 7, and 8. Just as was done with the French DDs, the Soviet battleships, and everything else that came before that. Even the dreaded British DDs. Oh, I remember. I had horrible RNG. They are adding a dedicated Italian port. This was a port that was built about around the same time as the French one. We just haven't had the Italians in the game for us to enjoy, but now we can. And you will note that the player's ship sits at the mouth of the river, and the container ship is right adjacent to sort of a small port. And I think that's very enjoyable. I love the colors. I love the fortification, sort of the stone. And we've got a rock barrier island that's really nice and interesting. There's a bridge there too. I'm very curious to see this up close and personal. And plus, the water is shallow, so it should appear as though the ship is sitting maybe at anchor close to the water, the edge of the beach, the port. So I'm excited to see that. In 8.9, it will be a 4-directive system, over multiple weeks, whereas every so often you will get a premium Italian container. You have the non-premium, or the cheap one, and then you got the premium one that has a fairly higher chance of reward. They look just fine. They got the barbershop. I mean, they're Italian. You show off anything related to green, white, or red, and or barbershop, everyone knows immediately who it's for. So that'll look cool. The token's going to be Italian token. So Wargaming is adopting just more straightforward naming conventions for their armory tokens and resources. And Italian tokens, just like the French tokens, are going to be able to offer you the ability to buy camouflage, signal flags, premium account, credit, event containers, and random bundles. There will be a permanent camouflage, which I have not seen yet, that will be offered for the tier 5, 6, 7, and 8 that you can earn. Similar to the French DD, the all blue with some ribbons and some golden statues. Don't know what the Italians are going to look like. Hopefully it looks cool. Wargaming, you got a lot to live up to. I really have been enjoying all of the skins you put out. Now the Zarya is going to be receiving some stripes. The Zara was not Zarya. This is an Overwatch. Zara is receiving some barbershop stripes. It is the only higher tier Italian cruiser that has not had them, but Wargaming is instituting them. And I think historically it didn't have it, but in the game sense, it's weird because the tier 5 and the tier 6, the tier 8, the 9, and the 10 have the stripes, but not the tier 7. So this is just to keep it in line and everyone feels the flavor of the Italians. And honestly, I approve of that. It's going to be a generic Italian camouflage that has improved free XP, commander XP, and XP per battle. It looks similar to the Romas, the Julius Caesar, the Abruzzi, the Duca, all of those Italian ships with their Italian camo. It seems fine. Seems reasonable. Other changes they're going to be instituting. The visibility system is receiving an update. So back before the CV rework, there was sort of a bug that was introduced. A happy accident, if you will. Happy little tree. And it allowed DDs, cruisers, and battleships, if they broke line of sight for more than 2 seconds, their bloom instantly returned back to normal. Now, it didn't work like that prior to that, and it hasn't worked like that since, until 8.9. In 8.9, they are instituting the visibility change, whereby breaking line of sight for more than 2 seconds will immediately return the ship's bloom down to its base. And that's awesome, because that should speed up the gameplay from a DD standpoint, cruiser, or battleship. If there's an island or smoke or whatever, you can run near it break line of sight for 2 seconds, and then your bloom will have returned quicker, and you won't have to stay spotted for so long. I really liked this when it was accidentally introduced. It's going to increase the speed, and it's also going to allow the players to feel like they can disengage at a little bit more of a safer distance and safer timing. You won't stay spotted quite as long, and that's a good thing. Now, because of all these changes, they are adding a guaranteed detection time of 3 seconds, so people don't flicker in and out. I think what they were afraid of is that people might flicker in and out of like weirdly specific geometry, something like the alligator teeth on Grease. Those teeth break line of sight, but sometimes you can see through, so what they are trying to institute is people not just phasing in and out so quickly that you can't even like comprehend what's on the screen. 3 seconds may or may not be too much. We'll know when we test it. They have a new group of ships. So what they're trying to do is clarify rentals and temporary ships, early access ships. They don't want them to qualify as the same thing as premium ships because they are not premium. My Mogador that's sitting in my inventory is not premium, but it is acting like premium until the full release version. So just more clarity, more filter options, cool. The displaying of camouflage. If the player has disabled the ability to display special camouflage, so this could be related to Halloween, unrealistic camo, or anything, normally the game would not display any camouflage on the ship. Now what Wargaming is going to do, it's going to display a base Type 5 camo so as to not confuse the player to believe that the ship is not benefiting from camouflage bonus. So it's just clarifying a little bit of a weirdness with regard to visibility and camouflages. People don't want to see the Halloween camo. They're crazy. I know they're over the top. Or the Lunar New Year. That's fine. But people should understand that that player is still benefiting from your base concealment improvement that camouflage give you. So I like that this is a clarity that they're introducing into the game. I could easily say it should have been from the beginning, but let's be real. Wargaming did not expect to be creating the kind of crazy looking camo that are now a part of the game that maybe in 2015 or 14, it just wasn't going to be a possibility. They're instituting Spectator Mode, finally, in training room battles. You no longer will have to ram another opponent at the beginning of the matches. So all those competitive games, King of the Sea, Shipstorm, you will have to not go through it. And even if you wanted to spectate on your own, which is exciting for me because I would love to put viewers against each other in some fun, like gladiator style brawl for a reward. This will now be available. Now, does this mean that all of the controls for viewing the battle are going to work better than they do now? I don't know. I would like the replay to be more refined. That might come after the Spectator Mode's added to Training Room, but I'm happy about the addition of Spectator Mode in Training Room. It's a good change. Test ships. So, semi-armor piercing shells are getting nerfed in their normalization ricochet angles. The 150 to 152 variety guns will be going from 80 to 85 degrees down to 65 to 80. The 203 millimeter guns will be going from 75 millimeters, 75 degrees to 80 degrees, down to 65. The only exception is the Tier 10. The Tier 10 is not getting nerfed at all. And what this will offer is an option for players to avoid incoming damage. Because it was so large before, testing sort of revealed that bow-in players could not avoid taking damage, even though they're literally doing everything they possibly can. So this is a slight nerf to SAP. I think it's appropriate considering how much alpha is attached to SAP. Because of all these changes, they're hoping that there'll be more counterplay, angling your ship to protect yourself from the Italians. And they only have AP, so it's going to be a real challenge for them to do damage against an angled target that's prepared to fight them. We'll see if that actually holds true. It doesn't hold true to the Tier 10 because obviously it didn't change, but the other ones were nerfed slightly. The Italian cruiser air detection has been reduced. They're trying to, well, it's been reduced outside of the Tier 4. What they're trying to do is minimize the distance that you're spotted by air and can't try and fight them off. The Italians have a pretty shallow AA range. I think it's like 4.8 or 4.6. So an aircraft could sit 6 kilometers away, keep them spotted indefinitely, while the Italian couldn't do anything. This is supposed to alleviate it some. There'll still be a window, I believe, that players can punish, but it'll be less so. It'll be very high skill from the CV if he's able to stay there with a 35 to 40 knot Italian cruiser trying not to desperately stay spotted. The Alberto is going to be receiving a nerf to its gun range. I haven't even tested the Tier 4. I can't really comment on it. The Tier 5 Premium Italian, the one with the 203mm guns, is it Genova? It is receiving a gun range buff. It's appreciated. The Tier 6 is getting a reload nerf from 15 seconds to 16. The Tier 7, the Zara, the one that received the stripes, is receiving a gun reload buff from 15 seconds to 14.5. Nice, nice, nice. It's also receiving the higher tier smoke exhaust generator. The 25 to 40. The 40 seconds is what is on the tier 8, 9, and 10. This should allow it to play against higher tier easier, but it's not going to make it so much better versus the lower tier. So it's a good change. And then one of the test ships, the tier 8 Soviet battleship, what is it, Poltava? It's going to be moved to tier 7, and our parameters are going to be adjusted accordingly. 32 millimeters to 25. Everything's lowered in accordance. It just didn't make too much sense at a tier 8 slot. And we already have a premium tier 8 Soviet battleship, so a tier 7, honestly, more appealing. We also get to see some of the stats for 2 ships in particular. The Mans is going to be a German light cruiser at tier 8. It's going to take the Hipper chassis, the Hipper hull, and it's going to apply 150mm guns on it, similar to the Nuremberg and the Königsberg. So this is sort of marrying 2 ideas together. I think the ship looks great. It does look like a Hipper or a Hindenburg. They all are similar. The Hindenburg and the Rune are basically designed off of the Hipper because the Germans never made something of or higher than the Hipper. But it has 12 150mm guns, and because it's German, you get a 1/4 pin. 1/4 of 150mm is 37.5. So you will not have to invest in IFHE to be able to pin 32mm. A very enticing proposition. Everything else about it is very familiar to the Germans. It has a 7.5 second reload. It has a heal. It has hydroacoustic. It has hydro and defensive AA. So there is sort of that light cruiser gameplay coming in here. I'm pretty excited to see this, though. I like the fact that it doesn't need IFHE. That's a real big appeal. There's going to be another premium Italian cruiser, the Gorizia. It's a tier 7. It's going to be a Zara class cruiser. However, it will not have torpedoes, and instead it will have hydroacoustic search. So you can theoretically combo this with your exhaust smoke, and you can push someone in their own smoke while not taking any damage. But it is a big give up. You don't have any torpedoes, and the reload is much worse. The Zara is 14.5. This is 16.5. Everything else is the same, basically. But obviously, hydroacoustic does not compete with any other slots, so you just get a 4th slot for free. It might mean some interesting gameplay coming in. And the camo kind of has like a thunderbolt, which is pretty cool. I'm excited to see how these 2 test ships play whenever they become available for testing. I'll let you know. Now we have Halloween. As you know, Halloween, 31st of October. We're a little ways off, but Wargaming loves Halloween because they do a great job at it. And this year, it looks like it's no exception. We've got a bunch of really cool screenshots of really interesting maps. And I don't know what to make from it. This looks like a port. This looks like the container ship here. It looks really nice. This is the this was the underwater fortress on the submarine map that rose from the depths. It's going to be a new game mode introduced for this Halloween. It's going to be Twilight Raid. Players will have a battle of 3 teams of 3 players each, so a total of 9 players who will fight each other, as well as ships under AI control. And you collect resources off of the map, similar to the Rogue Wave event, and then you have to take them to an area to cash it in so that the resources are available for your team. I'm curious to see how crazy this is, but the skins themselves look amazing. This is the Henri skin. Just look at the level of detail on the skin. Regardless of whether you like this style, I am so impressed by Wargaming's efforts on the camo, and I would love for even more of those efforts throughout the year, Wargaming. You got great artists building some really great skins, and I think you could also contribute that same love and passion for some historical skins or some slightly more intricate skins that maybe toe that line between being too historical or too much detail. Whatever it is, I think you should do more of it because it looks great. And then they're going to try and put all of the Halloween-related teams on one faction. I mean, there's no surprise there. At least the UI can support it. Here's an example of all those monster camos. They will be available in a special section of the army when Halloween hits. Halloween's not for a while. First up, we've got the Alaska. Kind of looks like a mechanical octopus. Maybe you could call it Physician Ock. Yes. PhD Doc. I know Doc Ock, obviously. So, liking that. Liking the way it looks. Here's the Henri. Kind of looks like a Zerg swarm or something. It looks crazy. All the fleshy bits, the greens, the reds. It looks just killer. Just really cool looking. You got the Kaba. The Kaba kind of looks like a roach, underwater roach thing. It's going throughout the ship. You can obviously see where the gun positions are. Very extensive, clearly. The Montana skin is legit. It looks like some crazy alien shark. It has just wonderful lines and teeth, and it just looks so intimidating and awesome. I appreciate that the guns are sort of a different color. So if you are firing on this ship, you will not be completely thrown off by the fleshy outer bits. You've got the Shimakaze. It looks just like something from underwater with the bioluminescent stuff going on. You got the Yamato, which is sort of a mechanical scorpion to go along with, what was the first one? The Alaska. So, a lot of cool skins related to that. Additionally, there's going to be some skins for the Bismarck. And this one also, this looks slightly different. It kind of reminds me of like Rogue Wave meets the Halloween event. Maybe that's what's going to happen. I don't know. But, you know, the front's kind of Rogue Wavy, but it also is kind of demonic. As if these guys come from, they were, you know, kidnapped and stolen and forced to fight for the other team or whatever. But the Halloween skins are great. I love that they're instituting that permanent camo thing. So if you don't like seeing Halloween skins, because you're going to see a lot of them, you will get just a generic premium camo appearance to the target. So they're not going to look completely naked, and you're not going to be confused by their concealment, because it will now actually look like they have the camouflage concealment and the dispersion benefit. And then finally, we've got a little bit of submarine gameplay. It looks really awesome. A lot of great Q&A information from the subs that they've shown off, and there's some great gameplay examples where they're talking about why did they choose 20-25 knots for the subs. It's not historically accurate. They felt like they wanted to try and condense all of the gameplay so that everyone is sort of in the same speed ratio, but clearly the subs give up on that one. There was a question about how many subs per side do you expect? They expect when it is fully released to have a cap of 1 to 2. For testing, it's going to be 2 to 3. Makes sense. You would want more submarine tests so that you could better understand how the gameplay is actually going to be balanced. We've also got a couple other questions. They were asking, you know, why do you feel like the submarine game, why do we need homing missiles, and why is that a part of it? Well, you know, the simple answer is that Wargaming is trying to condense and create this feeling of playing a sub, but fit it in a 20-second game, a 20-second game, a 20-minute game. So they're going to have the faster top speed of 2025 when moving around the map, but when you're in periscope depth and when you are actively trying to ping the target, and you could only access that in the periscope depth, they cap your speed at like 8 to 10 knots. So you still feel like you're trolling and sort of sniping from range, but it's condensing the entire engagement. They also answered some questions related to depth charges and counterplay. Why is it that DDs are the only ones currently that get depth charges? Their thoughts are, well, DDs were designed to go hunt them. And someone asked, well, if you're going to be offering something like depth charges, is there a reason why we can't directly control it with a button? And their answer was incredibly accurate. DDs already have probably the most to deal with in a game. Adding another button for manual activation is only going to complicate the class even more. And let's be real, people. DDs are so complicated that it's a real big barrier of entry for a lot of players currently. So they don't want to encourage people to sort of bypass playing DDs because they're just too complex. They felt like having it where you are going after a ship, you're searching for the ping area, you can effectively have it automatically activate. And I believe that too. There's no point in having more consumables on the screen if this automatic mode, which will automatically be activated when a certain threshold mechanic has been activated by the DD being close to this guy or seeing him. There's no problem here, DDs are already going to be really strong against these guys. If they get a hit on a submarine underwater with their depth charges, it even draws them on their screen. So it's going to be very interesting. They are absolutely looking forward to possibly implementing more changes if they need to in the form of counterplay. But they expect that submarines are going to be very vulnerable when in periscope depth. They can only home on the target in periscope depth, and when they activate their homing, they send out a ping to every enemy on the map. So it almost baits DDs to rush towards the submarine, and in this counter gameplay, you could theoretically draw in the enemy so your teams can pick on the DDs. You could also be spotted on the surface trying to use your periscope depth and the homing, and they felt like, DDs, battleships, and cruisers, they put one good shot near you guys, they might knock out the sub completely. So they were concerned that we'll see if there are needs for more counterplay outside of DDs having that special depth charge gameplay. And they're completely up to it. They're doing a ton of testing. They're not making the same mistake initially releasing. We'll see if the balance is there. But I'm really excited with everything they showed off. I think that visually they look great. They fit right in with the aesthetics of the game. I love the model so far. Also, they're going to be dedicated testing for Tier 6 only initially. They're going to make sure that the Tier 6 submarines are balanced on their dedicated test server. If you were interested in joining this testing phase for submarines, you can go to the World of Warship website and you can click on this submarine Q&A, and there is going to be a little article that allows you to apply. They'll choose you randomly, and if you're not one of the lucky few that get to test them early, I, as a CC, and other CCs will have early access to this, and we will be able to share the gameplay for you guys. So I'm really pleased with the mechanical changes. I'm super excited to see the Italian cruisers in the game. I think they're going to be awesome. Overall, 8.8, 8.9, and beyond, Wargaming's making better choices with, honestly, putting in the necessary changes to the game that are going to enhance it beyond just like one patch worth of event. I felt like kind of some of the more recent content related events was a little too much on encouraging people for early access and not making necessary changes to gameplay. Like this visibility change is a big one. That's a wonderful change. Clarifying the camouflage is a big change. That's a really nice adjustment. And having spectator mode for all those competitive matches, that's wonderful. So hopefully it works out. Can't wait for 8.8 on the 16th. Look forward to seeing all that gameplay and all that stuff. Hopefully you guys will join me for that whenever that goes live in a couple days. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to check out more of my content, you can click the most recent or the most relevant uploads. You could also choose to subscribe to my channel. We do daily World of Warship videos. First impression, how-to, news, review related. My North American recruit invite is on the screen. You can take advantage of that. I stream at twitch.tv/notser. Thank you, have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.